How's it going, everyone? Thanks for joining me today. So my first big purchase of 2024 is here, and it is the Blue Eyes White Dragon from SH Monsterarts. Man, oh man, am I excited about this. So it's going to be my first SH Monsterarts figure. Now, they've released like the model kit before, and I'm not a big fan of the model kits. I mean, they're great. They're fun to build, don't get me wrong. But when it comes to a model kit or an articulated figure, I'd much prefer an articulated figure. When I'm posing it, I don't want like the pieces to fall off. I want everything to stay intact. So I am a figure guy through and through. In fact, this isn't my first SH figure in general. So I have the Twilight Princess Legend of Zelda Link figure, I have Tobey Maguire Sam Raimi Spider-Man figure, Mewtwo, and like a few others. So I know their quality, they have exceptional figures, and you pretty much pay for that. So these are more of the higher end types of figures. So out the door, taxes, shipping, and everything, this came out to be about like $145, $150. So it is a little bit pricier. But the biggest thing about that is you have to import this from Japan. So no matter what retailer gets this, they all have to import this from Japan. So right now it's available on AmiAmi, Entertainment Earth, and Amazon as well. I'll post all the links in the description. And they even just announced the Red Eyes Black Dragon, which should be coming out in September. So I'll post that link in the description also. The box art to this is phenomenal, and they always do a fantastic job. So here's some more illustrations of different things and poses that this Blue Eyes can do. And there's even a little cutout here so you can see this figure emerging through the box. And clearly depicted is the traditional posing that we see within the animated series, as well as the cards. It's sick. It's sick. Oh man, this thing is crazy. So it comes with like all these different stand pieces, and then it has that like white lightning blast attack. It also has like a crazy amount of articulation. So we're in the big leagues now. This is pretty wild. So let's just jump right into this. You can see that the coloring looks fantastic. It has like a little glossy sheen to it, and kind of like a gradient colors, kind of metallic silver with some like white tips throughout, you know, like some white brushing. I mean, it's beautiful. Here's a better look at that headpiece, and you can see why they call it the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Just a phenomenal looking sculpt. Lots of details throughout. I mean, the articulation is everywhere. I mean, literally everywhere. Right now I have him just resting on this stand, so you can see that when you take him off, there's like these grooves to this top part, and they kind of all like work together to keep him in place. And what I also like about this is you can self-tighten the stand itself. So there's a screw right here, so if it ever gets kind of loose, you can just turn it with a screwdriver and make it snug again. I wanted to buy 3 of these, but in this economy I can't afford 3. But you know what, they will probably release a, you know, Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon at some point, I would imagine. So it'd be basically the same thing with the 2 additional heads. Let's start with the head. So the mouth can open about that far. We can close it almost all the way. It does stay open just a tad. The tongue is fixed. There's no articulation there. You can, however, move the jaw from side to side just a little bit. So that indicates to me that that is a ball joint there. This side piece to the jaw has no articulation. It stays fixed. These little plates at the back of the head do have some articulation. You can move them upwards and downwards, which I think is going to help when you have this head looking downwards. So all these little joints right here to the neck, these all have articulation and help the head move down. That is about as far as I can get the head looking down from the neck. So if I kept the body upright and just did all the articulation from the neck and the head, that is about as far as I can get it looking down, which is crazy. And then from there, it seems like each of these segments right here is on a ball joint and a swivel. So I can like take this whole head, and I should be able to spin it all the way around, no problem. Oh yeah. And then because each of them is independently articulated, I could just turn each of these in all different directions. So you can see like I have the head looking this way, but then I can turn this area and have it looking that way, which is obviously unnatural, but I mean, it just shows how much posability this thing has up here. One thing I love about SH figures in general is their joints are always really tight. I don't think I've had any joints on any of my figures that are loose. Everything feels nice, clean, and smooth. Now, if I wanted to look upwards, I should be able to look straight up. No problem. Dang, this thing is so cool. Wow, I can hyperextend backwards quite a bit. Oh my gosh, you can like basically snap its own neck on itself. That is crazy. Look at that. That is insane. This kind of reminds me of like in -1 when Godzilla is doing like its first atomic breath or atomic blast, and it like cocks its head backwards and then like flings forward. But here at the base of the neck, there's like this piece which would resemble, I guess, the collarbone in a sense. It's a looser piece, and it's kind of like a filler. Like it adds articulation. Like it doesn't hinder the figure at all, where if it stayed stationary, it might hinder certain areas of it. But because you have so much articulation in the neck, this piece is able to lift up and kind of maneuver with the neck and body. And that's something that SH does with a lot of their figures, so I'm pretty happy that they implemented something like that here. So at the end of the day, this does add articulation without it actually being a joint. Let's move down to the wings. So both of them have a crazy amount of articulation. So it looks like we have swivels and hinges here. So at the base where like the shoulder blades would be, we could take this wing and I should be able to spin her all the way around. Yep, just like so. It helps that this piece is loose right here because you can kind of push it up a little bit and allow for that extra posability. And then here where that hinge is, that's what's going to give us that like flapping motion. So I can go down about that far and then I can bring it up about that high. Wings don't touch, but this is great. I mean, you can see just the different awesome poses you can get from this. This figure overall is pretty heavy. I mean, it's a solid figure, and they put most of that weight here at the body, which is important. But here at the wings, they're a different material. They're like a lot thinner and flimsier in a sense, which I mean helps the figure out because you don't want to have a lot of weight here because you're going to just hinder the joints over time and you're going to make this figure too top heavy. The counter to that, since these are very thin plastic, you know, they're very lightweight, I can see these breaking or chipping if your figure falls off like a pretty high shelf. So display with caution. I would definitely say that from the get-go. Put it on the back of your shelving. I wouldn't have it like flying from the ceiling or anything like that, because if this was to fall, I would say you would run the risk of chipping some of these wings. But overall, I think they did a great job here. I like the approach that they did with these wings. So with that being said, there's even more articulation to these wings. There is a hinge and a swivel joint here at the very top. And that will allow us to get this big part of the wing to flex upwards and wow, and downwards. Lots of articulation here, and I should be able to, spin it all different directions this way. But it doesn't stop there. These like little fins right here, each of these is on a ball joint and you can maneuver them all different directions. So if you look closely at the right side, you can see those little ball joints sticking out right there. And that's where you can really flare out these wings. And honestly, that's what really helps out these wings, having them this thinner plastic here. You wouldn't be able to do this type of thing right here if you had like the heavier plastic that's like, say, part of the tail. So that was actually pretty smart. I mean, look at this. Here's an example about like the height I can get from these wings. The amount of range of motion that this has, I mean, it's freaking beautiful. Let's take a look at the arms. So at the shoulders, it looks like there is a hinge here, maybe a ball joint. No, it looks like a hinge joint and then probably a swivel as well. So I could take this shoulder and I can spin that around just like so. That looks great. Notice how all the joints are basically like hidden for the most part. You know, they're seamless. That is something that SH Figuarts does a great job with. They try to hide the joints as much as possible. The next two areas at the arm have the exact same joints. So we have hinges and swivels here. So at the elbow, I can flex it up about 90 degrees and then I can straighten it out all the way. I can also spin this area around. And the same thing is going to go for the wrist here. I can flex it back about that far and I can flex it forward, a pretty good amount, honestly. And then I can take this wrist and spin it around. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's kind of cool looking pose. The fingers do not have individual articulation, which is something that I thought they would have done with this. I mean, they've done it before with the, Mewtwo and a few other figures. But I mean, that's okay. It's not a make it or break it for this figure. The next area down is going to be the body. You can see that we have another loose piece right here, which mimics this area here at the collarbone. So that's, again, going to help this figure pose a lot better. But the main joint is going to be here, kind of just above the hips. So I could take this joint and I could, flex it backwards just a little bit. Not a crazy amount, but you can see when I do this middle area here conforms with the joint. So it doesn't restrict it at all. It actually helps it. So it's a smart idea that they were able to add this to this figure. And here I'll show you a little bit closer. You can see how that moves with it. So this is the piece that's loose, so you can see that moving around right there. And this makes it more fluid and doesn't make it like blocky, like, separated in between two joints. And I can also move it from side to side. So you can see here at the body, move left to right, up, down. So that is a ball joint here. I'm really impressed with this figure. I mean, so far it's worth that price tag. It is a little hefty, but I mean, it looks like you're getting your money's worth with this. Looking at the hips, it seems like these are ball joints here because I could take this leg and move it all different directions just like this, and I should, be able to spin it around also. That looks great. And these joints, again, are very stiff, which is very important here at the hips. Since this is so like body heavy, you don't want these legs to be able to like flare out and like topple the figure over. Below Below that, we have the knee joint, which is our hinge and swivel. Pretty traditional to what we see upwards with the elbow. And wow, I can flex that back pretty far back. That's great. And then I can move it into it like a straight position. But that is great there. And then I should be able to also spin this around. Yep, no problem. This ankle has a little bit more going on, so there's definitely a swivel here, and we can also move it forwards and backwards. But the foot itself is on a ball joint, so with all three of those joints combined, you can get a great amount of movement from this. That's going to leave us with the tail. Extremely lightweight and posable while also being durable. So this is great. Look at this. I mean, you can go from left to right, up and down. It seems like each of these, at least for the most part, I mean, this is sculpted together, but it seems like each of these has a ball joint here. And this is something that they did with our Mewtwo figure that we have. And this actually works out really well, especially for this figure, because I mean, the tail itself is like rugged and choppy, and this is actually a perfect design for this. I can't spin any of these segments around, but I can still get some great posability going from the back and then wrapping around to the front. All of these joints work together to get you that posability, but it seems like the most range of motion is going to be here at like the base of the tail. There's like this middle segment here, and there's another segment here. So these areas have what appears to be the greatest movement. Being able to flex the rest of them is what makes it even better. I mean, look at that. I can like make like a scorpion tail. That's crazy. All right, let's do some measurements. So standing at a neutral position, I would say from bottom to top, just under 7 inches, very close to 7. For wingspan, I try to get them as wide as possible without having any gaps in between those. So from tip to tip, oh man, looking at about 16 inches. That is wild. Very impressive. And then let's do front to back. So front of the mouth to about tip of the tail. Let's see here. This looks a little bit more accurate. I'd say, wow, just about a foot, so 12 inches. All right, now, so this comes with the white lightning attack. I mean, look how crazy this thing is. It does have pieces that are not attached, and you're gonna have to do that yourself. So it does come with some instructions, and it shows you how to easily put them in there. So this doesn't actually attach to the Blue Eye's mouth. It's actually attached to a stand piece. There's a little notch right here. Easiest way to find that is the longest piece, you look behind it, and there's gonna be a little hole right here. And that's where you're gonna connect the two. The other two stand pieces are going to be like wing supports. So in total, it comes with 4 different stand pieces and the base. And all of that is depicted here in the instructions. So without the Blue Eyes, this is how we are looking. And again, each of these comes with some screws, so you can self-tighten those in case anything gets a little loose. Here's a quick mock-up of him on the stand. These wing supports actually come in handy. These are really nice. So let's put that white lightning blast on here. I actually find this a lot easier to put this on first and then apply this to the base of the stand. Now look at that. That is sick looking. I mean, just for a simple posing, I mean, that's freaking awesome. This makes me even more excited for the Red Eyes Black Dragon. And hopefully they do make, you know, a Blue Eyes Ultimate. I mean, I think that would be just fantastic. But why stop there? You know, let's make our duelists. Let's make Yugi, you know, Kaiba, and all of them. Just recently, I sent in my original Blue Eyes White Dragon from my childhood to get graded by PSA. This was in and out of my binders. It was in my decks. I played with this quite a bit. I knew it wasn't going to be a 10, but I still wanted to get it graded anyways. So I think it's important to see if I could recreate this illustration. Oh man, does this look amazing. I mean, I know the box had an illustration of it, but you know, being able to do this in real time, I mean, it looks so much cooler. I freaking love this so much. It's crazy to think that it took this amount of time to get a figure like this. I mean, there's been other Blue Eyes White Dragon figures, but nothing along the lines or scale of this. I mean, this is far superior. It's just such a beautiful piece. If you're a Yu-Gi-Oh fan, I think you're really going to enjoy this. I mean, for this posing alone, I think is just incredible. Now it's like, okay, do I display this on my shelf like this, or do I utilize the stand? Let's do some comparisons and see how this Blue Eye stacks up to some other figures. So here is the SH Figuarts Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. We have a Phase 2 Black Series Clone Trooper, World of Halo Master Chief from Halo 3, and Spartan Collection Master Chief. Let's do one more, the Burning Godzilla from NECA. Alright y'all, my final thoughts on the new Blue Eyes White Dragon from SH Monsterarts. The price is about $150-ish, $145, and you're getting a whole lot of figure for that price point. I don't typically spend that kind of money on a figure. It's usually a rare occasion, but I think this one is definitely worth it, because you're getting a whole lot of figure within this Blue Eyes White Dragon. It's also interesting because this is the first real highly articulated Blue Eyes White Dragon we've ever received. I mean, there's been a few other companies that have released like smaller scale type of items, but nothing to this scale. I do think Bandai and SH Monsterarts was the perfect company to execute this, and it gets me even more excited for the Red Eyes Black Dragon. So this is the first introduction to Yu-Gi-Oh figures from them. I mean, this could be a deep rabbit hole for us collectors. I mean, can you imagine them making the Dark Magician Girl, Exodia, the Duelist, you know, Yugi, Kaiba, Joey, and even Pegasus? But at the end of the day, this is a premium figure, and I do think it is worth the money, especially if you are a Yu-Gi-Oh fan, or even just a Blue Eyes White Dragon fan. I don't think you'll regret adding this to your collection, and SH Monsterarts / Figure Arts has a great reputation, and their figures hold their value over time. I did put all the links in the description below, so be sure to check those out. But that is it, everyone. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to September when the Red Eyes Black Dragon comes out, because I will definitely be uploading that to the channel. Connect with me on Instagram and TikTok to stay up to date when new things drop, like this Blue Eyes White Dragon, the Red Eyes Black Dragon, and hopefully the Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl. I also post toy photography, toy videos, and other things that you won't see here on YouTube. As always, if you did enjoy this unboxing and review, be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel and lets me know that I'm doing a good job. Until then, we will see y'all in the next video. White Lightning Attack!